We'll be singing another, and Charlotte a third, and I invite you to sing along with us, whichever one you feel moved to this morning. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out.
When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love.
Sing it out with me.
When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love.
One more
When I
time.
breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love.
Welcome.
Greetings. I'm Beverly Bravo. I facilitate the core circles of First Unitarian, creative, open, religious exploration. Circles are small group ministry, also known as chalice circles, that meet monthly and foster connection, friendship, and spiritual growth within the larger congregation, kind of like a glue that helps hold us together and inspire us. First Unitarian of Denver is an urban sanctuary for growing souls in love and service. We have been a beacon of liberal religion and social justice work in Colorado for almost 150 years. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whether you carry joy or sorrow in your heart, you are welcome here. We are happy to share this time with you, and we're so glad that you have joined us either online or in person. If you wish to connect with us further, please stay for coffee hour following the service, either on Zoom or in person. Check out the opportunities wall on the far side of the community room. I'll be there with Kate Robbie. We'll be happy to chat and answer questions about any interest you may have about becoming more involved in the congregation as far as, or learning about what the committees do. Also, during the coffee hour, our Board of Trustee members will be the folks with the yellow smiley mugs. Coffee mugs, that is. Also, little announcement here. First Unitarian is thinking of partnering with an educational travel company called Road Scholars to offer their 8-day, 7-night civil rights tour next spring, and the possibility of reserving that week for interested members in our congregation on March 31st. That's 2024. We need to know if there's enough interest from our members for Road Scholar to hold that week in reserve for us. So if you have any interest, please stop by the opportunities table. Kate Robbie has just done that trip, And it starts in Atlanta, Georgia, and it goes to Montgomery, Selma, and Birmingham, Alabama. And she encourages us to take advantage of this opportunity to visit some of these historic places. Additional announcements are in our weekly emails. Be sure to sign up for those if you haven't already. And now, please take a second to silence your electronic devices so you may be fully present in this physical or virtual space. It is good to be together. Thank you.
Please take a moment to turn to your neighbor in front, behind, or to your sides and greet them and welcome them here. Now we're going to use the yellow. And now would you join me in singing our song of welcome? Wherever you are, whoever you are welcome here. Particularly if this is your first or second time, we are glad that you are here. We are many, we are one. The light of the world is within you. Sacred and worthy is your soul. A place has been made for you.
Good morning, First Unitarian. Our call to worship today was written by Reverend Scott W. Alexander. In a world with so much hatred and violence, we need a religion that proclaims the inherent worth and dignity of every person. In a world with so much brutality and fear, we need a religion that seeks justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. In a world with so many persons abused and neglected, we need a religion that calls us to accept one another and encourage one another to spiritual growth. In a world with so much dogmatism and falsehood, we need a religion that challenges us to a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. In a world with so much tyranny and oppression, we need a religion that affirms the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process. In a world with so much inequality and strife, we need a religion that strives toward the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. In a world with so much environmental degradation, we need a religion that advocates respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. In a world with so much uncertainty and despair, we need a religion that teaches our hearts to hope and our hands to serve.
I first encountered the word polyphony in my study of music. And in that study, we're always referring, or most often referring to music from the 17th and 18th centuries, the Renaissance era. This piece that we're going to sing this morning is from that era. A simple version of polyphony is like a round, where we all sing together, but the same melody, but at different times. And the piece we're singing this morning is a more complex version of that called imitative polyphony. And if you listen to us, you'll hear each of us come in with a similar melody, but starting on a different pitch, and then it all weaves together into a tapestry. Please enjoy Sicut Cervus.
cervus desiderat ad fontes
Let's stop. Let's just try this again. We're going to go from... This is hard. It's okay. It's okay. We're going to start at the beginning.
Yes.
Here we go.
Yes.
One and
Sicut cervus desiderat ad fontes desiderat ad fontes
Good morning. It is May, and our theme this month is creativity. I'm Erin Kenworthy, your Director of Religious Exploration. That is Matt Davis, our Worship Arts Coordinator, if you didn't know his job title. And this morning, it is time for all ages. So if you're young at heart, come on up. We're going to talk about this wooden thing that's up here. May is a month of milestones, isn't it? Yeah, school is coming to an end. We have people who are getting ready to maybe graduate from high school or move up a grade level or even into a new school or a new learning environment. And so every year in Unitarian Universalism, at the end of the year, we do a bridging ceremony. But before I tell you about bridging, I want to tell you about something else that we offer occasionally when families request it, and that's a child dedication, which is similar but not exactly like a baptism, if you need something to associate it with from another faith tradition. And in that name ceremony, yeah. Parents are able to make promises to the child. The congregation can also affirm those promises to support that child as they learn and grow in our faith tradition. Sound good? Yeah? At the end of that ceremony, we usually hand that baby or young child a rose where the thorns have been removed. Yeah. It is also symbolic to represent that our community holds our children and youth in a safe way as they grow and learn. And so we give them a thornless rose. And then, eventually, as children do, they grow up and they get ready to join the adult world. And this bridging ceremony is a continuation of that younger ceremony. And at the end of this, usually when a person bridges out of our children's programming and into young adulthood, we present them also with a rose that has thorns on it. Yeah, and that represents that our community will continue to support that individual even as they experiences both the beauty and the challenges of life that they will face, right? I left my thorny roses in my car this morning, which is parked a couple blocks away, so they're not here. But also, we do not have any current active seniors who are bridging into young adulthood today. But this bridge hangs downstairs in our youth room, and when people bridge, they are able to write their names on the bridge. And over the years, we hope to fill the bridge with the names of youth who have bridged out of our program and been in our community here. Still, we are celebrating milestones right now. Yeah? Do we have anybody here who is in 8th grade and getting ready to move into 9th grade? Aw, yeah. Yay, Nancy. That's Nancy. Nancy Grace, you are not obligated, but if you would like to, you can come up and practice walking over the bridge just for fun. Just to get a feel for it, know what's coming. There you go, go ahead. Yay! Thank you. All right, my next question is, let's see, that was 8. Do we have anybody in 5th grade getting ready to go into middle school? Somebody approaching middle school? All right, if you would like to practice bridging, come on up. We'll start over there with Matt. Woo! Good job. Woo! Cool. All right, now let's see. If you are in kindergarten and you're going into 1st grade and you want to come and walk up across here, that's okay. I know we have one, but they don't want to walk. Ask me how I know. And then if you are in preschool and getting ready to go into kindergarten and you would like to walk over the bridge, come on over. Yay! And then if anybody else just wants to try it out and you want to try bridging, come on up. You can still walk across it if you would like to. Anybody out there? Does anybody need to recognize a bridging moment? Retiring! Yes, come! Woo! Nicely done. Woo! Yay! Congratulations. All of these milestones are important, these big ones, things like when a baby is born or when people graduate from high school, but also when we learn a new skill, when we make a new relationship or a new friendship, sometimes when we end something that was really hard. Those can be milestones too that we celebrate, and I encourage you, even if it's not a bridging milestone, that you celebrate the changes and the growth that is going on in your own lives as it happens. Yeah? So I celebrate you. Thank you for being here this morning. Please join me in singing our children out to their programming.
All of our music is polyphony this morning. Would you please rise in body and or spirit and join me in singing one of our hymns this morning, Where Do We Come From? This is number 1003 in the Teal hymnal. This has 4 parts. We're going to sing all 4 parts straight through, and I invite you to sing along with us as we go through those parts. And then we're going to slowly layer those parts into, say it with me, Polyphony. And I invite you to sing whichever part you'd like to. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? are we? Where are we going? Where did we come from? What are we? Where are we going?
Hi there, it's been a while since I've been up here. I'm Sally Isaacson, your assistant treasurer. So, this week, our Surgeon General declared loneliness as a public health problem. I don't know about you, but when the pandemic first started and the church closed, you weren't allowed to go places and things like that, I really was lonely. I live alone, and my cat got tired of me talking to her. And, you know, I talk on the phone, but talking on the phone isn't the same. Even Zoom is not the same. Being together is what pulls the veil on loneliness and makes you feel connected. Being there. I was so happy when church opened again because every Sunday, or almost every Sunday, I try to be here, and what I get is a dose of love from all the people I know here, from new people that I'm meeting, and then, of course, the wonderful music and our messages. So it restored me, and I was good for at least through Wednesday. Then Thursday started and Friday started, but anyway, back to that. But this community, no, they don't want me in the corner. I learned that a long time ago. In the 8th grade, I was the only person not allowed to get up with the class and sing. I had to sit all by myself. So that gives you a clue about my voice. But anyway, this community, that means each of you, has meant so much to me. And I think we do that for everyone, whether we're online or here. But here is when you actually feel the waves of concern and love, which is so important to our health. So, to support this community, we'll be taking the offering now. And, but you can always say hi to Bev when she passes the basket, or to your neighbor when you grab it, and all of that. But this community means so much to me.
These gifts freely given are gratefully received. Thank you. Thank you for your generosity, your contribution, your support for the larger work and the ministry of our congregation. Thank you. Many of you were here last night for the auction, and I need to hold up some of the folks who helped make that happen. Diane Hainsworth, who is not here today, but Becker Parker Strout and Susan Riederer and Helen Berkman. If you are here, would you stand up, please? And then also, I mean, those were the folks that sort of the Energizer bunnies behind it all, but then a whole bunch of folks showed up to set up and clean up and serve hors d'oeuvres and pour wine. If you were one of those folks who helped out last night, would you stand up so we can thank you for all your help? One brief announcement before I share some community cares and concerns. We're starting something new today, which we decided to call our Whole Soul Studio. Some of you will remember last fall we did a after-church session here called Repelling Fewer Visitors. Remember that? Well, a lot of people came, and a lot of people, could we do more stuff like that? And the answer is yes. We're going to start today, and we'll do this probably monthly, probably on the first Sunday of every month. We're going to call it a studio. It's going to be a half hour, 45 minutes. It's going to be today. After service, it's going to be the last half hour, 45 minutes, and our subject is community. So if you can stay, please do. It'll be fun and hopefully connective. Couple joys and concerns of our larger community. Speaking of bridging, Reverend Elizabeth Mount, who is the daughter of Carl Mount and Marty Dawley. Reverend Elizabeth Mount grew up in this congregation and yesterday was installed as the minister of the UU Church in Cheyenne, Wyoming. We had a little accident yesterday right at the beginning of the auction. Reed Hainsworth was on his way up the stairs and then fell. They took him to the hospital. He was admitted last night. He has some broken ribs and a partially collapsed lung. Yeah, poor Reed and poor Diane. She was really stressed out, trying to organize an auction and care for Reed at the same time, and she wisely left the auction in our hands and went with Reed to the hospital. Anyway, he's there at Denver Health right now, and that's all the information I have at this moment. And then also, speaking of bridging, I need to let you know that the Reverend Jim Hobart, who was the minister here at this congregation from, I believe, 1982 until 2000, 18 years. Reverend Jim passed away this past week. I understand it was sudden, but also peaceful. Nan is still with us and has requested no cards or calls for the time being. She's hunkering down with her kids. I would say that it's never easy to follow a long-term ministry, and I would say Reverend Jim Hobart and Nan Hobart made that about as easy as any ministers could possibly have done when I came here in 2002. And lastly, I just have to mention that yesterday, someone with a gun killed 9 people in Texas. And 3 days before that, someone with a gun killed 1 and wounded 4 in Atlanta. And 2 days before that, someone with a gun killed 6 people in Oklahoma. And 3 days before that, someone killed 5 people in their home in Texas. And on and on and on it goes. 192 mass shootings just this year. It's only May. Please please vote for people who will stand up to the NRA and the gun cult of America. So by way of a pastoral prayer today, I want to share with you a poem that was written by my friend and my colleague, Reverend Janet Emmons, long retired now. Oh, and by the way, this poem mentions Barbra Streisand. And as I was thinking about it, there may be some younger folks here who don't know who Barbra Streisand is, and that's fine, of course. But for those of you who don't know, Barbra Streisand was a singer and an actress, kind of a big deal back in the 1970s. This is called Harvest Song. You thought you could sing like Barbra Streisand, wowing the masses, titillating the ears of your peers. But when you close your mouth, you hear that they are the ones singing. Those faceless and faced people, the ones you sought to impress. This is the harvest song. Listen. This is the wisdom you read about. Listen. This is when the dance takes place before the iced winter sets in. Winter always comes like this, an unexpected blast of cold music and ageless, aged wind. A decrepit understanding accompanied by this, an abundant refrain in which you have to let others show their stuff. Didn't you know? Didn't you hear it coming long before the microphone fell from your hands? This is the harvest song. Listen. This is the wisdom of people. Listen. This is where you move in a circle, where you take the hand of someone who stands next to you. Why did you wait so long to feel the rhythm in her palm? You thought you could shuffle the whole dance with your own clumsy feet. Summer light blinded you, blurred the men and women in the seats before your eyes. Can you hear the laughter from the field? Do you know it's time to leave the stage for the darkness of October wings and the comfort heat of other bodies? You heard your own voice soar in the summer heat, but no one can sing solo onto death, not even Barbra Streisand. This is the harvest song. Listen. This is the music of shifting vision. Listen. This is the beauty of bodies around you dancing, dancing, as if it will end soon. And it will, you know, end soon. You don't want to miss it, do you? Oh, there's no interlude. I'm on. All right then. Well, with that transition, Entangled Life is the name of a wonderful book about mushrooms by Merlin Sheldrake. And in it, he beautifully describes a song of the Baka, or the Babenzele Pygmies of Central African Republic. And I quote, "As they wander around collecting mushrooms, their steps tracing the underground form of the mycelial network, the women sing amid the sounds of the animals in the forest. Each woman sings a different melody. Each voice tells a different musical story. Many melodies intertwine without ceasing to be many. Voices flow around other voices, twisting into and beside on another. Polyphony is singing more than one part or telling more than one story at the same time. Unlike the harmonies of a barbershop quartet, the voices of the women never weld into a unified front. No voice surrenders its individual identity, nor does any one voice steal the show. There is no front woman, no soloist, no leader. If the recording was played to 10 people and they were asked to sing the tune back, each would sing back something different. Mycelium is polyphony in bodily form. Each of the women's voices is a hyphal tip, exploring the soundscape for itself. Although each is free to wander, their wanderings cannot be seen as separate from the others. There's no main voice, there is no lead tune, there's no central planning, and yet a form emerges. Polyphony is a rather beautiful word, in my opinion. Polyphonic pieces like the one we heard earlier are gorgeous. Polyphony comes from the Greek. It literally means many sounds. In modern usage, it refers to music where multiple voices, notes, or rhythms sound simultaneously, making a cohesive whole. You could argue that most music is polyphonic. Today, I want to use polyphony as a metaphor. And that's because the older I get, the more I think that what I see when I look around at the world is both very narrow and hopelessly conditioned by a very particular and very limited linguistic and cultural worldview. Very narrow and conditioned. Two illustrations come to mind to get where I'm going. You might be familiar with the electromagnetic spectrum, which is a way that scientists talk about energy moving or traveling in waves through a medium. Waves have a wavelength, an amplitude, and a frequency. On one end of the spectrum, the electromagnetic spectrum, are things like radio waves, which are relatively long. And on the other end are things like X-rays and gamma rays, which are extremely quick, very short. And all of these, the whole spectrum, is constantly around us and moving through us right this second. Radio waves, gamma rays, all of it, right now. But only one tiny little sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum is visible light to the human eye. One tiny little sliver. All the color and light that you and I can see is just a tiny portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. And the rest of it, the vast majority, are in ranges to which our senses are completely oblivious. So I love to wonder, what are we missing? We only get like this much. How would we experience the world if we could see or experience sensory somehow radio waves or infrared or ultraviolet or X-rays or gamma rays or some other part of the spectrum? I think this is a powerful metaphor for how our minds work as well. Even within the tiny sliver of visible light, we still don't see all there is to see. And we don't necessarily even see what's really there. We certainly don't understand what it all means. Amen? So here's a little spiritual truth for church on a Sunday morning. When we are at our human best, these limitations, these inherent, inescapable limitations, are not sad or depressing at all. When we're at our best, our limitations are actually exciting and fun with the possibilities of discovery. Like, what are we missing? It's a lot. How cool is that? Like, what else is there to know? Another example, completely different, or another illustration, completely different. I remember the first time I was infatuated with someone. Like hopelessly in love and lust and wonderful. I think I was 16 or so. I felt like I'd just been woken up and I didn't even know I was asleep. All of a sudden, there were these whole worlds of feeling and intensity and joy and excitement and longing I had no idea even existed. It was the same old world. I was just seeing it and living in it in a whole new way. I hope you've had that experience too. And later, of course, came the anguish and the heartbreak. All right, the tears and the pain. But over time, those two have given a glimpse of a much more nuanced and complex emotional world than I had previously even imagined. Later, too, came all those other emotions that mature as you grow up, right? A sense of wonder, curiosity, betrayal, self-doubt, achievement, failure, strength, a host of others. And in my better moments, I love to wonder, like, what else is possible? What else is out there? What else is in this realm of experience for being human that I don't even know about yet? It's not like any of us are done, if we're here anyway. Not to put too fine a point on it, but our culture does not encourage looking at the world this way. We like to believe we already have the information and we're in charge. We go about our lives that way. Philosophers have argued that science and the scientific worldview has not just conquered the world. In our culture, it creates the world. And what they mean by that is that this worldview that supports science is one of dissection and isolation and description. It assumes things are understandable, and it goes about this using the very effective method of breaking things down into their constituent parts for study. Reverend Dr. Michael Fuller wrote, if you want to know how bodies work, you look at the organs they contain. If you want to understand organs, you look at cells. To understand cells, you look at complex biochemicals. To understand biochemicals, you look at molecules. And to understand those, you look at atoms. To understand those, you look at nucleons and so on. Understand the behavior of the bits, and you understand the behavior of the whole. And while not precisely true, that principle is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. We study light, heat, gravity, electromagnetism, even sociology and philosophy in the same way. This approach has been so spectacularly successful in the culture that we live in that even the language we speak, we have thoroughly internalized this so well, so thoroughly, we even see ourselves as separate and isolated from each other, disconnected from each other and from the earth that sustains us. Other languages and other cultures don't do this, at least not nearly to the extent that we do. I think it's interesting that this way of looking at the world, this isolate and dissect, is the exact antithesis, the diametric opposite of what the best of every spiritual tradition tells us makes for a meaningful, connected whole life. Mark Charles, a Native American author and activist, once wrote, Western Christianity preaches hyper-individualistic salvation so that it doesn't have to repent for its systemic sin. an observation I find both truthful and profound. It's long been argued that the cultural assumption of human souls isolated and disconnected from the rest of life leads directly to selfishness, greed, materialism, tolerating the cruelty and violence of poverty, and a deep suspicion of them, whoever they might be in the moment. In her book, The Flowering Wand, Sophie Strand reimagines the myth of Narcissus, who you might remember falls in love with his own reflection and then stays there at the pond, looking at his own reflection, stuck there until he dies. She wonders if the usual interpretation of this isn't just more shallow moralizing from a shallow culture. And I'm going to paraphrase her words here for brevity. The glossy mirror of narcissism is the myth of progress. The flickering screen in our pockets, the idea that nothing we encounter is really real. But we have no more time for abstraction. We have no more time for moralizing. Our time calls for slowing down, for sitting next to the water. If we're lucky, we will see ourselves, but not as an isolated subject or the abstracted blank space of phenomenological ontology or in the metaverse of false binaries. We are in the pool. We are the pool, alive with frogs and water skaters and algae and a billion things too small to see, in a forest that is itself alive and sentient. The real narcissism is to believe we can stand apart, morally or philosophically. The real narcissism is to live unaware of the polyphony of sentience, of which we are merely a single note. In another essay she wrote, I want to offer that what we're seeing is actually a deeply profound type of myth-making that is dialoguing not with fantasy, but with deep time and biological truth. We're so enculturated with Eurocentric epistemologies that we forget for most of human history, we have been asking questions of our environments and getting back accurate data. That data wasn't quantitative with Western tools of measurement. Our tool of measurement was our bodies, our intuition, our dreams, our relational webs that, like spider webs, could catch interesting things and interesting ideas. This information coming from the environment couldn't be put in a box or labeled, but that didn't make it less accurate. The polyphony of sentience, of which we are only a single note. So here's where I think I'm going with all this. I think, and I hope I'm making sense. What we're beginning to see in science, in both the cosmic and the atomic scale, is that these mysteries of matter and time and consciousness are not made less mysterious through study. Are not made less mysterious. We're beginning to wrestle with the fact that the things we know and the things we cannot know are not at odds with each other, but interwoven into a polyphony of mutuality and interdependence. This is kind of revelatory for a culture built on isolation and individualism. And we who are very, very clever, but not at all wise, we who are magnificently noble and yet horrifically cruel, we who are utterly holy and utterly profane, we who have inherited this amazing, miraculous, gloriously interconnected life, we have an opportunity. In the words of the poet Timothy Ferris, and I love this quote, "Stand under the stars and say to them what you will. Blame them, praise them, question them, pray to them, wish upon them. The universe will not answer, but it will have spoken." We have an opportunity. Thomas Berry wrote, and I love this quote too, "The emergent process of the universe is neither random nor determined, but creative." Just as in the emergence of music or love or ecosystems, the process is neither a rational deductive process nor a predestined process, but creative. And like evolution, it always happens in the spaces, in the relationships. This dawning awareness, which I hope is dawning all over the world, gives me hope. Gives me hope. Nothing could be more obvious than that the thinking that brought us to our current predicament, this mess we're in as a species, the thinking that brought us here is inadequate to the problem of cleaning it up. Amen? We're going to have to be creative. We're going to have to find different ways of being in this world. We're going to have to expand our consciousness beyond the worldview of isolate and dissect to something that sees the interrelationships, the interdependence, the mutuality, the polyphony of sentience, the unity that makes us one. And understand that that is just as informative, just as compelling, I would argue more healing, more sustainable, more poetic, more beautiful, and more truthful. At our best, which I believe we can be, we will approach this in a spirit of joy and curiosity, excited with the possibility of new discoveries. That's it.
So this version of Polyphony is called a quadlibet. And instead of all singing something similar, we're all going to be singing a different song. And they all layer together in a really beautiful way. We'll be singing 3 different spirituals, and we're first going to sing them right in a row. Would you please rise in body under spirit to help us sing those 3? And then we'll each be singing our own, and you're welcome to sing whichever one you'd like to join in on. While we sing, I'm gonna sing, sing, sing. I'm gonna dance, dance, dance. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance. Hallelujah. When the gates are open wide, I'll be standing by your side. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance. Hallelujah. Choose which one. I'm gonna sing, sing, sing. I'm gonna dance, dance, dance. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance. Hallelujah. When the gates are open wide, I'll be standing by your side. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance. Hallelujah. I'm gonna sing, sing, sing. I'm gonna dance, dance, dance. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance. Hallelujah. When the gates are open wide, I'll be standing by your side. I'm gonna sing. Please join me in singing our closing affirmation. Behind our differences and beneath our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together throughout all time, through life and death, and the space between the stars, throughout all time, through life and death, and the space between the stars.
Be humble, for you are made of the earth. Be noble, for you were born of the stars. Be kind, for you belong to each other. Our service is ended. Go in peace.